Um, all right, so there we go. So, all right, so yes, welcome, good morning. We are so excited to have you with us. This is our first ever webinar with the Kentucky Advising Academy, which is an initiative of the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education. And we're thrilled that you all have decided to join us today. I hope you're energized by the information that you receive. We've got some great information for you today, for sure. So my name is Destiny O'Rourke, and I'm the director of the Kentucky Advising Academy. And I'm joined by several of my colleagues today. Brett Foster, who is our director of communication. We've got Joette, who takes care of us behind the scenes of everything. Dr. Amanda Ellis is here today. She's our fearless leader, so we're very excited to have her with us as well. And I will be so excited to have you see our new regional advising coordinators, and they will introduce themselves in the chat in just a few minutes with everyone else. So we're really rocking and rolling over here at the Kentucky Advising Academy. And we also have some wonderful partners at OneGoal. I cannot wait for you all to hear about the opportunity with OneGoal. So I'll turn it over to them to introduce themselves in just a few minutes. All right, so we want to know about you. If you would, please take a moment to make sure your name is showing up with your organization on your screen. And you can do that by clicking on participants and clicking the 3 dots beside your name. It'll give you an opportunity to introduce for us to see who you are and where you're from on the screen. And then also, please just take a moment to introduce yourselves in the chat. We would love to have your name, your organization, your title, and just for fun, tell us if you are or are not a fan of Black licorice. So let's take just a few minutes and introduce ourselves in the chat. All right, we're seeing those roll through. There's always strong reactions when it comes to Black licorice, so I love seeing these. Okay. So thank you so much for doing that. Please continue. We would love to make sure we have everyone who is in with us in the chat there. So again, I know you have a million plates spinning, so we're really appreciative that you are spending time with us today. I do want you to know that ELA credit will be available for our webinar, and I'll be sure to give you details about that at the end of our time together. All right, so I want to just take a moment to talk about our agenda. So on the agenda for today is a brief introduction of the Kentucky Advising Academy, and then I'll turn it over to our partners at OneGoal, who will tell you about an exciting opportunity for districts in Kentucky to enhance post-secondary advising through their post-secondary leadership series. And then after that, we will go over some ways to stay connected, as well as inform you on how to access your opportunity for ELA credit. So on the next slide, you'll see, I just want to start by sharing the purpose of the Kentucky Advising Academy. And so really, I just want to give you some information on how it came to be. And then I want to share some structure of our services before turning it over to OneGoal. So you'll see here on the screen that the purpose of the Kentucky Advising Academy is we really exist to provide support for school counselors and really all professional educators who find themselves in a post-secondary advising role. We develop professional learning and resources in order to help build knowledge, capacity, and community around the post-secondary advising process. Those who know me know that I'm especially excited about the building community part. I have missed seeing faces out in the field, and so we're really excited to share our collective knowledge with each other and to really help our students the best way that we can with the myriad of information that is out there around post-secondary advising. And so on the next slide, you'll see we were really born out of a committee recommendation from the Commonwealth Education Continuum. And I'll refer to that as the CEC. And so the CEC is a joint initiative between Lieutenant Governor Jackie Coleman, Education Commissioner Dr. Jason Glass, and our very own Council on Post-Secondary Education President, Dr. Aaron Thompson. So they put together this all-star group of stakeholders representing P20 and on through the workforce to identify where there are leaks in the pipeline. And ultimately, they're taking actionable steps to plug those leaks and help Kentuckians navigate transitions more smoothly so that overall quality of life is improved. And one of the CEC subcommittees recognized the need for supporting school counselors and other educators with post-secondary advising. And so that really is how the Kentucky Advising Academy came to be. So really, you'll see on the next slide, we really want our professional learning to accomplish 3 goals. We want to help our target audience build post-secondary advising knowledge, capacity, and community. And so to accomplish that, we have multiple ways that practitioners can choose to be involved. You'll see here monthly, we offer Well Advised, a brief podcast covering timely post-secondary advising topics, such as college admissions, financial aid, scholarships, and more. And then we also offer this monthly webinar, which will always be related to the podcast topic. Quarterly, we offer a newsletter with post-secondary advising information, not only from us, but from partner organizations, which there are so many wonderful partner organizations across Kentucky. So you'll hear from several of us. And then we also are going to start hosting full day, regionally based, in-person professional learning beginning this fall at a co-op near you. So finally, we are building a comprehensive online advising toolkit, and we'll give more information about this as it becomes available. And also, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we're very fortunate to have regional advising coordinators to help us execute this structure. And so our regional coordinators are on the call with us, and you can hop in to the chat and see where they've introduced themselves, but we're very thankful to have additional help. And so we certainly would love to have you join us in all of these different opportunities. So I'll let you know at the end just how to stay connected, and you can pop in as it fits for your time. So in an effort to provide high touch, high impact post-secondary support, we have partnered with OneGoal, an organization with a unique model to provide exactly that support. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to them so they can introduce themselves.
Good morning. Thank you. Thanks for having us, and thanks for that intro, Destiny. My name is Melissa McClare-Gary, and I am a Managing Director of Programs with OneGoal. So I'm really excited to introduce you to a colleague of mine, talk to you a little bit about the work that we're doing. But before we do that, we did want to get a sense of who's in the room. And so I think in just a moment, we will launch a poll. So we want to know more than just your preference for licorice. It's very clear that Black licorice does not have any fans in this space, but understand a little bit more about your specific roles. So there should be a poll popping up for you there. All right, great. So it looks like we have a mix in the room, but we've got lots of folks who are doing work at the district level, and then we've got lots of counselors with us too, which are absolutely the right people to have in this space. So we're looking forward to jumping into this conversation. So as I shared, my name is Melissa. I am based in Chicago. And I'm actually fairly new to OneGoal. I joined the organization in October to lead very similar work to what we are getting ready to embark on in Kentucky, in my home state of Illinois. And so prior to coming over to OneGoal, I worked for a different education nonprofit doing very similar work, working with school teams and district teams to support structures and systems for instructional coaching and new teacher induction, lots of teacher support stuff. So that's definitely where my heart lies. And prior to that, I came from Chicago Public Schools as a teacher and as a district leader. So this work is work that's very near and dear to my heart. And I'm excited to share it with all of you today. And I'm joined with my colleague, joined by my colleague, Andrea, who will introduce herself.
Hi, good morning. My name is Andrea White. I'm a post-secondary leadership coach here at OneGoal. I've had the wonderful opportunity of being at OneGoal for about 3 years now. And prior to transitioning to this role, I was based in the Chicago region where I coached teachers and principals and school administration teams around improving post-secondary outcomes for their students. And prior to Illinois and joining OneGoal, I was in the great state of Kentucky. That's home for me for 10 years. Shout out to Fayette County Public Schools. That was my district, in Bryant Station High School. So I had the pleasure of being there for 10 years. Started in the district with teaching as a high school teacher, and then had the immense privilege of being lead school counselor and leading the school counseling team at Bryant Station High before transitioning to OneGoal. So very excited to be in community with you all today and to just bring this work and this partnership to Kentucky.
We're also joined by a few other OneGoal colleagues who you can kind of see as you scroll through our participant list. They're partially here to be flies on the wall, but also to get to know you. So if you have any questions or if things are coming up in our conversation today, we'll all kind of pitch in to respond and make sure that we're getting the information that you need. So our goals for our time together today are to introduce you to our post-secondary leadership series. So as Destiny shared, this is the professional learning that we engage in with our district partners that's really meant to focus on those post-secondary leadership systems at that level. So we're thinking about what are some of the structures and processes that need to be in place to ensure that we are building out equitable pathways for kids and that they have lots of choice-filled options at the end. We want to talk about what you can expect from us as a partner should you choose to join and jump into this partnership with us. It's being facilitated by CPE. And then we'll talk a little bit about the application process. We don't want it to be a ton of information coming at you. So if there are questions and we can make it conversational, we're very open to that. But Andrea and I could talk about this work all day long. It's what we do. So stop us if we are getting too in the weeds or if you need additional clarity. So we want to start just by looking at some information, some statistics that are probably not a huge surprise to you, but it's really just meant for us to pause and think about kind of what our current status is. And these numbers are very, very similar to the numbers in Illinois and to trends that we're seeing all over the country. The short version is that our counselors have way too many kids to support when we think about the deep advising work that we want for them to be able to do. We know that there is a very significant gap between the college going rate of our low-income students as compared to their higher income peers. And we know that COVID really negatively impacted what we're seeing nationwide around college enrollment. And so our big bet is that in engaging in professional learning and in kind of these collaborative spaces that OneGoal is facilitating, that we can start to address some of these gaps and create systems that ensure success for kids and for the leaders who are charged with supporting them. We have started this work in partnership with CPE, as Destiny mentioned. And so this is really an opportunity for us to engage with individual districts. So we're kind of thinking of this as like a statewide opportunity. So it's not meant to be a support that lives in one little corner of the state, but we want for this partnership to be something that's available across the state. And so that each of our partner districts are receiving very contextualized support. We do not believe in a one size fits all model of coaching or of professional learning. And so we want to very deeply understand your individual districts, understand what some of those pain points are for you, and then work on individualized solutions. And we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like in a minute. So just to give you an idea, I know that I referenced that we are doing this work in Illinois. So this is kind of our map to give you a sense when we say that we want to be statewide or we're thinking about the variety. We launched this work this past fall, and it was just an extension of work that we were doing in smaller pockets. But it was our first opportunity to dig into a statewide partnership with individual districts focused on post-secondary readiness. We are currently supporting 23 districts in Illinois, and they are as diverse as our state. We are supporting, with the exception of Chicago Public Schools, which is our largest district, we're supporting large districts. We are supporting small rural districts, single unit high school districts, student bodies as small as 250 kids. So thinking about that wide range, and we're learning a ton about their context and what it takes to meet their needs. But it kind of looks like somebody just splashed the state of Illinois with OneGoal, and that's kind of what we're hoping for in Kentucky as well. And so next slide, please. All right. And so this is just a note about what we're hoping to do. We offer flexible, impactful partnership to meet schools and districts' diverse needs to equitably support all students. And so as we talk about our work today, our hope is that, with this kind of statement in mind, you can see or imagine what that might look like in your school buildings or in your district, and think about kind of what would that support need to look like? What are some of those diverse needs that your kids are showing up with? And what would learning need to look like for you as a leader to address some of those challenges and to build on some of the growth and the amazing things that are already happening? So how do we do that? So OneGoal's history has been in kind of our origin story is in our classroom model. And so we kind of have a dual track approach that we take to supporting districts. Next slide, please. So we have our classroom model, which is what you kind of see on the right of this Venn diagram. And that's where our roots are. That is what you would expect to see in any well-structured post-secondary support class. We're talking about FAFSA completion and match and interest and all of the exploratory things supporting kids through that process. We've had a lot of success in that space. And what we learned is that we can do some really incredible work with kids in classrooms, but what about all the kids that don't get to sit in a OneGoal classroom? How do we ensure that the whole system is built so that kids have those same opportunities, or that the adults in the space have their eye on those same outcomes for kids? And so that's where we get into our post-secondary leadership series, which is for adults. And so I just really want to stress that the work that we'll talk about today is adult-facing work. So while we ultimately hope that, we want and we believe that the work we do with adults will lead to impact for kids, our direct touch points are with the adults in the space. So how do we do it? So we have this approach that kind of falls into these three buckets, and we don't want you to worry too much about the different A's, although, educators love alliteration. But like any other, improvement plan, we start with an assessment. And so we start by thinking about, what is our current state of post-secondary readiness? OneGoal, in partnership with a few other really incredible researchers and folks in the ed space, developed our post-secondary readiness rubric, which is a space for us to think about post-secondary readiness through the lens of 7 focus areas. They're really exciting. Don't worry about what they are right now. All you need to know is that we engage in a great conversation around those focus areas, and that becomes the foundation of our plan and of our work that we do together. So when you look at kind of where we go from assess, we have advance, which is just the ongoing coaching. So you might have identified in your district, you really want to take a look at just a shared vision. Is everybody in the district on the same page around the post-secondary outcomes we want for kids? We might develop a goal in that area, and then your post-secondary leadership coach would engage you in ongoing coaching toward progress in that goal. Below that, where you see assemble, this is like Destiny was saying, bringing people together in community. Like, this is the really fun part. This is when we bring together teams from multiple districts. We bring together cross-district teams in cohorts to dig into this work. We know that this can be very siloed work. And even when you have the opportunity to connect with colleagues through conferences or other cohorts or PLC models, it's not very often that we're thinking very specifically around post-secondary success and these types of indicators for kids. And so this is a space where we can think about this work and what implications it has for our improvement planning, maybe for our PD planning and capacity building at our districts. And so you can kind of see these two tracks. One is very individualized work with your coach, and the other is kind of this very collaborative cross-district space that's facilitated by OneGoal. And of course, we're holding data and our analysis at the center of that to make sure that we're having really data-informed conversations. I just said a whole lot, but I would love to pause and just, Andrea, is there anything that you would offer up as you think about kind of how your partners have engaged in these different pieces of the process?
Sure. This is actually like really timely for me because right now with my districts, we're having kind of like our end of year reflections on just the process that they engaged in this year and just their value, seeing their value in our partnership in this work. And overall, you know, one thing that has really stood out in the conversations we've been having is just given how challenging this year has been, along with the past 2 years, just having the support from not only me as their coach, but also the OneGoal team in general, and standing alongside them with this work. Districts have really appreciated taking the opportunity to have this dedicated time with team members that usually they don't get to have these conversations with, especially centered around post-secondary readiness, because as you all know, a lot of times post-secondary work can be a little disconnected from school improvement priorities. And so our districts have just really valued and appreciated being able to have time with district leaders and school leaders within their district to sit down and really get them back to the why of their work and why they got into education in general and the roles in the work that they're doing now. And so we're having conversations through each of these different components that Melissa just mentioned, and assess, and advance, and assemble, where they're having this time to do that data analysis, where they're also beginning to use data to do some root cause analysis work and inform their conversations and the goals that we're setting that's really going to guide the course of our work. They're finding and looking at equitable gaps that they might not have realized. And what's also exciting to see is they're building capacity together as a team, which has been really, really great. So they're gaining a lot of insights and knowledge and resources and tools as they are going throughout this process. My districts have also said too, you know, they really value that assemble piece that Melissa just mentioned with the cross district opportunities. It's been really great to see them collaborating with leaders that are in similar roles and sharing best practices and tools and just hearing about what other districts are doing. And so they've really valued that cross-district collaboration. And I think the last thing that I'll name in terms of just this process and hearing what they've really appreciated. As we know, just all of us being educators, there's so many different things and competing priorities. And so sometimes a partner or partnership can feel like, ooh, here comes another thing, right? Like we've got all of these million things that we're juggling and woo, you know, here's OneGoal. And I've just really loved hearing my district say as we're having these end of year reflections that it didn't feel like another thing to them, because one really great thing about the work that we do through this post-secondary leadership series is we really focus on alignment and coherence. And so how do we take systems and structures that they're already doing and build upon that and help to strengthen that where it's aligned and coherent with their school improvement priorities. So it doesn't feel like, you know, we have all other 20 improvement priorities over here, and then here's our OneGoal post-secondary priorities, but I've just loved how we've been able to build that into their school improvement and district strategic priorities. And so now it doesn't feel kind of like that separate thing, but it's all aligned. And it really leads to our goal of post-secondary readiness becoming a holistic part of the school and district community and culture, and not just really siloed to that counseling realm. So the districts are really excited. And, even yesterday in one of my districts, as we were wrapping up, they were like, oh, can we meet in July? Like, they're really excited and ready to dive in. So we got 2 dates in July on the calendar as we're getting to action planning and implementation. So it's just excited to see, like I said before, districts just building their capacity together and finally, being able to make room for post-secondary readiness in their school improvement priorities.
Thanks for sharing that, Andrea. And I appreciate what you're naming about, like, it's not another thing, right? Like, we really want to be alongside our district partners and working with them on the goals that they've set and on the challenges that they've identified, right? We are not there to diagnose, we're not there to evaluate, but it's really learning and hearing from them around what some of the challenges are, and then thinking about how we can help to address some of those. With that in mind, we're actually going to post another poll because we'd love to just hear and see a little bit about, the folks who are in the room with us around some of the challenges that you're currently facing in your space when we think about post-secondary readiness and the support that would be valuable. Great, we'll just close it out in another second. We'll see what we're working with here. So we have kind of an interesting spread here, but probably not surprising for those of us who are in the work day to day. And so we're seeing those competing priorities that Andrea is naming, the resources, the staff capacity, and I mean, a blessing that folks aren't feeling like they have a lack of data. And so that's a good place to be. Andrea, is there any challenges that you're kind of seeing some of your districts grapple with, maybe that aren't represented here? Or can you speak to maybe the ways that you've supported a district in addressing one of these things?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. All of my districts have experienced the challenges that are named within the poll of having too many competing priorities. That's what I mentioned early, and working through that in, really aligning their school improvement and district priorities to this post-secondary work. One that wasn't on here that has come up in a few of my districts in just conversation is really having that common shared understanding and knowledge of what post-secondary readiness really is. One of the principals in one of my districts, he named that's a challenge of, if he went and surveyed everyone in the entire school and really the district, there would be so many varying definitions of what post-secondary is and what does post-secondary readiness look like. And so that's a lot of the work too that within the support with districts and being able to, I'm sorry, my apologies on that, and being able to help support them in making post-secondary readiness, building capacity of all adult staff members, and not just where it is siloed to usually like how it is with school counselors. And then in thinking about some of the others, like with resources that was named, a lot of the work that we do in supporting as we do the needs and assessment, and to Melissa's point earlier about how our work is very tailored to meet the school and the district's needs. So we don't come in and say, hey, this is what you should do, but we really take time to learn and get to know the district, the school community, and their needs. And from that needs assessment, when districts are then able to choose areas that they want to focus on relative to post-secondary readiness. The nice thing is having your OneGoal coach and the team as kind of your expert in this work. We are able to help them develop resources and tools to drive this work forward. And it's really cool because the work looks different in a lot of my districts. And some right now with counselors, we're working on pathway and course student selection refinement. And another one, we're working on career pathways and career academies. And so it's really taking those challenges that were named in the poll and being able to kind of assess and get to the root causes of those challenges. And then those root causes help to inform the work and support that we do ahead.
Thanks for that, Andrea. And that actually kind of takes us right into, I wanted to dig in a little bit to what that assess looks like. And so, as we said, this is kind of where we begin. Once we meet and we have a time together to do some introductions and some context building, we dig into this assessment. And so this is really meant to be a space where we're bringing together multiple perspectives. And so it can be, as you can imagine, thinking about all of the strengths and challenges around post-secondary readiness is going to sound very different based on who you have in the room. And so as we're thinking about those different perspectives, can I see the next slide, please? We are looking through these 7 focus areas. And so as you can imagine, if you have a room full of counselors, their day-to-day work might live in some of these focus areas differently than your district superintendent, right? And so in that assessment phase, as we're thinking about our readiness, we want all of those different perspectives in the room. And that's a space where, you can kind of see that some people think we're really, rocking out in some areas, and other folks are like, well, I don't know about that. One question that one of my colleagues always ask in the assessment is, what would students say? Would your parents agree that this is a strength of your district, or that this is a growth area? So it's really an opportunity to bring folks together. And from there, we move into kind of a landscape analysis to think about, what is the current state? What are who are our stakeholders, our resources, and how do we leverage those things to make some progress across these focus areas? From there, we do get into that advanced work that we mentioned earlier and that Andrea was just speaking to. That's the coaching. That's the part that's super relational, and that's where we're building those connections and leveraging each other's expertise and spending time to really think about, what does this need to look like in my district? Right. And so, as I shared with you that map of Illinois, and I'm sure it's very similar in Kentucky. Folks don't necessarily need to know what's happening 1 hour or 2 hours up the road. They need to know what it's going to look like in their particular context. And so the coaching plans are meant to be very customized in that way. And then the coaching also has this kind of ongoing progress monitoring. So we're setting very actionable next steps. We're checking in on those next steps. We're holding each other accountable. And we're thinking about how we're distributing this work across our context. And finally, then we have the assemble portion that we mentioned earlier. So that's when we kind of get together in teams. We get to have some role alike, learning together. We're reviewing data, and we're thinking about our post-secondary improvement plans that are related to those goals. We also, this experience is approved for ELA credit, which is a nice bonus. But it's definitely a space where people value getting those alternative perspectives and thinking about what things that a neighbor is doing might apply to my particular context. So this is kind of what the partnership looks like. And so what does it mean if you raise your hand and choose to join us? The next several months of our process are going to kind of look like this. And so we're currently in our partner recruitment phase. So we're actively hoping that you will join this partnership, or spread the word if there are folks in other neighboring districts that you think would benefit from this work. But we'll be doing that in June through July. And at that time, folks are submitting applications. We then have what we call an application review. And that's where members of our team will meet with the folks who submitted the application, and just ensure, this seems like a place where the partnership is going to be successful. Folks understand what the commitments are. We're signing MOUs, and we are all excited to get on the bus together. And then in the beginning of the school year, once counselors are back, our teacher leaders are back, we have our team together and ready to go, we officially launch the series. And so that's kind of what the next several months will look like for us. I want to pause here and just see if there are any questions, because we just said a whole ton, and we're going to hold a little bit more time for Q&A, but I wanted to, just as we think about this process or what the different components are, is there anything that we can pause to answer? All right. Okay, so when we think about this actual partnership and the cost of the leadership series, each year per district, the cost of the entire series is $60,000, but it will be funded, which will be funded through ESSER funds for the first 2 years. After that, we will continue to partner with CPE to help you identify funding sources. So the series is, the heaviest touch in the series is the first 2 years, and beyond that, in year 3 of our partnership, as that capacity is built, we would work alongside you to identify funding sources as needed to continue the partnership. All right. And so here we are with our application deadline a little more than a month away. We are hoping to select between 10 and 15 districts across Kentucky to engage in this program and in this partnership. We are hopeful that number of districts is a representative sample of the state, and we can really see how this work unfolds and impacts kids across different contexts and different different communities. But we want to make sure that you know that we are available. If you have any questions about the application or about what this partnership would look like, who should be involved, who should we talk to, what's next, we want you to feel like you now have some faces to put with the names. And so if you want to reach out or want to have a conversation prior to submitting an application, we are available for that as well. Once the applications are received and we do that review, we'll be officially announcing our list of partners in late summer.
Hi, I have a question.
Sure, thanks.
So since lots of us are more counseling, or like I'm on the college coach side, I have no control over what we're spending $60,000 on. Yep. So like, who is the first person that I should share this information with to even begin to make that decision about whether or not we would apply?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think that your first kind of point of contact would be your school leader, and just ensuring, we can make sure that you have the information that would be helpful to share. Destiny, do you have any insights as you think about how folks are from that point approaching CPE?
I think it's important that, you can maybe introduce those who are the decision makers to this information, to our OneGoal partners, maybe talk about what you're seeing from your perspective and how you feel like it would provide value. And we're happy to sort of help facilitate whatever conversation, is necessary to sort of move this along.
Okay, thank you. I saw in the chat that you plan on emailing the link for this recording. And I guess sharing that just with our principal would be a good first start.
That's what I would do, Emily. I mean, I feel like, and yes, I will send it out to you all. It'll also be posted on our YouTube channel, and so you'll have access to this presentation. But you will always have access to any one of us that can help, facilitate those conversations. I think your principal is a great place to start, and maybe even think about some of the initiatives that you already have going on, and think about how you feel like this partnership would help to improve those. One of the things that has always stood out to me about OneGoal is that they, like they said before, they're not trying to lump something else on top of your already full plate, but they really are giving you a chance as a college coach, as a counselor, as an administrator, as a teacher, all these roles, to really take time to sit down at the table together and then make some decisions about where you are and where you want to go. And so I think that's, for me, I feel like that's probably one of the most beneficial parts, because things sometimes can feel reactive. And so this gives you a chance to all sit down and carve out that time together to be proactive and work toward the goals that you already have in place with the expertise of this partnership.
But thanks for raising that question, Emily, because I know we can be in spaces like this and we're like, this sounds really cool, but where do I go? Right? Like, how do I make sure if you're not the decision maker? So I appreciate you raising that. And please let us know if there's additional information that would be helpful. Great. So Andrea, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind bringing voice to this quote as we think about our partners in downstate Illinois and what they have to say about the partnership.
Sure. This is from Nicole Webb, an instructional coach in Cahokia. And it's post-secondary success is important because it is seen and valued within the community. With OneGoal's program, we can see our students' progression after they leave high school. I love numbers and data, and we're gathering information to help drive our instruction. The timing of this partnership is perfect because the vision setting work puts our district in a forward-thinking position as we head into the summer. And just love Nicole, especially at the end, how she highlighted as it puts the district in a forward-thinking position. One thing, when you all did the polls, we did see that lack of relevant data was not a challenge that a lot of you all were experiencing. So to Melissa's point, that's really great. But being even able to look at your data, analyze that with a team, with your district team and your school lead team, and really use that data analysis to be able to inform and drive that work and be able to set goals that align to the priorities that you already have, really does help with that vision setting and getting in a forward-thinking position moving into the summer. And that's where a lot of the districts are right now. Now that they have taken the data that they have done that analysis and that root cause work, we're now in this moving forward mindset of we've got our coaching plan developed that is tailored to their district, their students' needs and their outcomes that they're looking for, along with the goals, the measurable goals that will be progress monitoring and setting. And so now this summer, as we move forward, this is where we get into the action and the strategic planning part. And it's just been really exciting personally for me as a coach to see their excitement, because being very transparent from when we launched from day one to now, I've seen just so much growth in just not only my districts, but just so really proud of the work that they've done. And that's been a part of our end of the year session as well, as just celebrating all the good things that you all have already been doing and the work that we've been continuing to build on. And so just seeing that excitement as we move into the rest of June and July, so that we can have a really engaged start and are ready to go in the fall with implementation.
Thank you so much for that, Andrea. So we want to put up a third and final poll, just kind of gauging your interest. So non-committal, but are you interested, or would you like to join this inaugural cohort? So as these results are coming in, we're seeing lots of maybes, which is a good place to be, but please let us know, what it might look like to confirm that choice for you. Either way, if there's information that would be helpful so that you can make a more informed decision or pass this along to decision makers in your space, please let us know, and then we will ensure that we get that information in your hands. So as we kind of close out our portion of the webinar, we just wanted to, open it up again if there are any questions. We have a QR code here for folks. The first will take you directly to the application on our website. You can check that out and see what types of questions are being asked. And the second is to schedule a meeting. So if this piqued your interest, but you'd like to talk further or have folks in your space that you'd like to bring into the conversation, check out that second QR code and set up a meeting with us, and folks from our team will be there to support. Jaron, is there anything that you'd add there?
Yeah, technical difficulties. That schedule a meeting QR code is not working today. So I put the meeting link into the chat for everyone. So you can use that link directly to schedule a meeting. And then Melissa, I just also wanted to call out Donna's question in the chat for you to perhaps answer live here. Donna asks, is there a minimum number of years commitment that we have to do if we apply and are selected to participate?
That's a great question. Donna, we hope you want to be with us forever. But at the most basic level, we want to make sure that folks can commit for the year. And so as we launch the work together, we know that it'll take the year to actually see some progress. Our kind of scope of professional learning is a 3-year scope. But the first 2 years are the most intensive. Year 3 is kind of like, we've got some things in place, let's stay in touch and let's continue. But years 1 and 2 are really where we're digging in and doing the deepest work. Now, I will say in full transparency, things change in districts. And so, we do have a district partner in Illinois right now where we've made it through the year, but there are leadership changes happening. There's, reorganization happening, and they won't be able probably to sustain the partnership. And that's understood, right? Things change. But our hope is that, it's a fruitful partnership and that it's something that's valuable and folks want to continue with through the 3-year scope. Thanks for that question.
And Jaron just added to the chat, but I wanted to also say it, CPE is supporting districts, the selected districts for the first 2 years. And so we hope that, that will provide some relief that will allow you to stick with it for at least those first 2 years. And so we're excited to be able to bring that partnership to our districts. All right, so last chance for any other questions before we start to wrap things up. If there are any, feel free to go ahead and pop those into the chat. I am so excited, you guys. It's just, there's great information here. There's great work happening. I hope that one of the things that you're feeling after hearing from our partners at OneGoal is that you're not alone, right? Some of the things that they talk about with their Illinois districts and some of the things that we're feeling here in Kentucky are similar things. And so what's nice to know is that they've got some great experience in their work, bringing that expertise in a way that is making a difference, And ultimately, we want to make sure that our students have access to the information they need so that they can make great decisions that will impact their futures for generations to come. So I'm very thankful that OneGoal was willing to kick us off in this webinar series and share their information with us. So yes, that's one excellent opportunity for some great professional learning and some great implementation and high impact in your district. Okay, so Joette, I'm going to ask you to pop up our slideshow again, please. And hop on over to that next slide. There we are. So again, with OneGoal, it's an application process. And so you'll have access to that application there in the chat from Jaron. And then also we're happy to facilitate phone calls and other connections that would be helpful for you. So that deadline is July 18th, and the application process is live and ready to rock and roll. So I do also want to encourage you to stay connected to the Kentucky Advising Academy and the work that we're doing to help provide professional learning in addition to this partnership with OneGoal. And so, so if you will check our website, it is right there in the link that, in the chat, excuse me, Mitzi just put that in the chat. So I want to encourage you to stay connected to us. You can actually subscribe to our communications, including updates about podcasts and webinars, as well as our newsletter and our forthcoming in-person sessions. And you can also take some time and follow us on social media. You can follow us at Advising KY. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, which is where this video will be posted for those who were not able to catch it live. Okay, so last slide here. As for your ELA credit, so you will be able to use that QR code And we're also posting a link to the form in the chat. And yep, there it is right now. So once you complete that form, then we will be able to email you your certificate of participation for joining us today. I also want to say that up next in July, we're going to have our podcast and our webinar focus on the similarities between the college application for our Kentucky schools. And we've been working really hard to develop a tool that I am very excited about that you'll be able to use with your students, you know, to help them sort of visualize what their college experience can be and what their high school experience needs to be based on what the colleges are asking for. So we do hope that you will join us for the podcast and for the webinar in July. And also, I want to encourage you to be thinking about capacity inside of your school building. So when we have our in-person sessions this fall, we really are inviting you to think about your team. Who are those people who are decision makers or people who are excited about post-secondary access? Who are your community partners? You know, who's that team of about 4 or 5 people in your building that you can bring to the co-op to be thinking about systems that alleviate some pressure for you around the application process, the financial aid process, scholarships, you know, really making a difference for our students and making that process smoother. So this fall, we'll focus on post-secondary access, and then we'll have another round of professional learning in the spring that focuses on post-secondary readiness. So thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you all spending this time with us. We hope that you got some information that you're excited about, that you can put into immediate use. And we're available if you have any thoughts, questions, comments, and things like that. So without further ado, have an excellent summer. Stay cool out there. And thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.